we are streaming, and we have our Nats Talk on the Go logo on the screen with the caption below World Series bound in all capital letters. Because what else
That's
can
all
you
right.
possibly do in this situation? I feel like this is what my life exists for at this point.
That's the only
mean,
thing that's been going on in my life right
I know,
now.
seriously.
There are no words.
Yeah.
But we're going to put some together anyway.
We're gonna make our best effort. As Yo and I talked about when we did our last show, when you were on the road, Craig, we were like, oh, let's keep this one short, and then like it was the longest episode yet.
Yeah.
We
Love
just
it.
kept going.
Well, because we had to do 3 games too.
Yeah, that's true. We had and 2 separate series.
Did a solid 30 minutes on
Yeah.
each.
Joe, did you tweet a link yet?
I am tweeting it right this very second,
Awesome.
Let's get that.
and it is tweeted.
Twatted.
Tweeted, as it were. And I am retweeting it from my personal account, and now I feel like we can talk about sports.
Oh, sports, Joe.
Well,
Can you even believe?
so
They've been pretty good lately.
I just want to say there's something to, I'm not a superstitious guy, but there's something to the fact that Johan got on this show and this happened. I'm just saying. Just got to put it out there. It's relevant.
Hey,
damn
I'll
it.
take it.
You're a
word
little
for it.
stitious.
That's right. I'm just a little stitious.
I'm very stitious.
You're the stitious one of the group, Yo. So,
Yeah, for sure.
I think, well, what game day traditions or superstitions do you guys have with this run? Because I think the only one I've got right now is I've been wearing my Soto jersey for, I think, just about every game since game 3 of the DS, maybe even before, and I have not washed it.
Nice.
So, like, I wore it all 4 games of the CS, and I believe the last 2 of the DS. So it's doesn't smell great.
What do you have, Yo?
So mine is I wore my
Boom!
weekend jersey, the Soto jersey, to the wild card game
Nice.
with
Oh
a
yeah.
black hat that kind of matches it, and I've worn it every single game, regardless if I'm at the stadium or not. Only one button undone at the top. Hat has to be backwards because I turned it around right before the 8th inning during the wild card game.
That's awesome.
And that's pretty much attire wise. Yeah, there's a couple others. I will say, Craig. Well,
yeah.
I didn't know if I wanted to. Well, yeah, screw it. Remember that
Go
seed?
ahead, man.
Remember that seed I found in Game 4?
Yes,
Still got it. Haven't
dude.
lost. Haven't lost since we found that seed.
Good.
Nice.
Good.
I don't know if Joe, if you saw it, but it was like a sunflower seed that was like 7 more.
Oh no, I didn't see it. That's awesome.
It's the super
That's
seed.
incredible.
And I found it in the middle of Game 4 of the NLDS and put it in my pocket, and I've had it ever since. They haven't lost
It was
since then.
incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't. You guys know I'm not a very superstitious guy, but so mine are only. I wear my Strauss jersey on Strauss start days. I wear my Scherzer jersey on all other days, and then in game game 3, maybe one of the Cardinals losses, I was wearing my brown glasses, and then I put my brown and blue glasses on for the next game, and the brown glasses are stuck in the cabinet in our bathroom. Those will never come out again, quite possibly. But those are my only really superstitious things for this one. But even I am participating in some way.
This is all golden content.
Oh,
right
absolutely.
Dude, whatever works,
That's right.
man.
Yeah, I know. Roos, our friend Laura Roos, is rocking the same Soto jersey for about the same length of time as I have been. So we're keeping each other honest on that
Nice.
I like that we're all rocking Solo.
That's
Soto, not Solo.
Yeah. I mean, I said this on Twitter last night, I think. Might have been the night before, who knows. But I'm pretty sure he has become my second favorite baseball player
Like
Like
current
ever?
or all time?
Ever.
Like just
Ever?
behind Edgar?
ever. No, behind Ricky.
Oh, Rick. Oh, Ricky. What am I thinking? Edgar. I know it's Ricky.
Wow.
I mean, there's just something about him, like the way
there's a
he
lot about
played
him.
and the attitude, the personality, the skill. Like they were talking about on the game last night, where after game 3, and he felt he had missed some opportunities, he stayed in the park for at least an hour and a half working with the hitting coach, and they were like, okay, let's start working the field. He had an opposite field, either single or double last night. He pounded the ball. I think he hit a couple to the track. So he makes those adjustments. He's just such a savvy, smart player. So I think he's up there as maybe my second favorite player ever. And I'm not even ashamed to say it.
Yeah, he is fun to watch, right? Like I love watching him. I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet, but he is very, very fun to watch.
I mean, I don't think it's a stretch, but isn't that insane? He's, again, we got to repeat. He's 20.
Yeah, right.
And he's like already up there on your list. I mean, he's definitely top 5 for me right now.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But like for me, you guys know how I feel about Strasburg. Like he is the pinnacle of Washington Nationals baseball for me right now. He is like I love him so much.
His personality has come out more this year than
Well,
ever
yeah,
before,
exactly.
which I love. It's great, but like to be so young and to have such a complete package, like it's like he's 20 now. He turns 21 next week, and he could have a 20 plus year baseball career. It's insane.
Yeah, very, very possible. People have continued to, and when we first started doing this in the postseason, people have continued to compare him to Harper, and I don't think it's an unfair comparison, right? Like between the two teams and everything else, but I think Soto has shown something that is just, I don't want to say that we never saw from Harper, but like it just feels very different to me. What do you think, Yo?
I mean, he's the direct replacement for
Right.
Harper, so you have to
Right.
compare him.
The comp is valid. It's just like I think that overall we're trying to like I'm trying to get away from like talking about Bryce Harper overall. Like I just don't think that it's relevant to what's happening right now overall. But what do you think?
To me, it's like it's direct replacement plus they both started in the league when they were 19 and were really, really good as 19-year-olds, and then they just continued. But I think we said before that we think he's better as a 20-year-old than Harper was as a 20-year-old. And he seems like he's going to be just more consistent over the long run than Harper is.
Well,
and he's
Obviously, we
definitely
don't
more of a
know.
complete player.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Outfield's coming around, but like he might be already a better outfielder than Harper was then.
Well, and
Even then now, I don't really consider Harper a really good
his-
outfielder now.
His game 3 slip notwithstanding.
yeah, that was gross. We'll get there. But I think I would agree with that. And the comps are obviously totally valid, but I think when you look at like Harper had that rookie of the year season and then kind of dropped off, and like the consistency that you talk about, Yo, and like being a more complete player, like Harper is more of a an absolute result type player, like strikeout, home run, like not going to hit as many like gappers, not going to hit as many like Soto is just like the constant adjustment that he does is sort of remarkable.
Yeah, that's the thing that I really wanted to touch on. Like he puts in the work to become a better player, and I think a lot of it relates to his upbringing. I was talking with a friend of all of ours, Bean, who's also a baseball coach, like Yo, and I believe Yo lost to Yo this year, which you can go ahead and brag real quick.
I mean, the only thing I have to say about that game was that our ace went that game. He was pumping about 94, and his curveball was about 85.
Yeah,
as an 18-year-old.
I was gonna say that's a
and he
high
went
school
second.
player. That's insane.
Yes, the dude is like 6'5". He's going to Mason. He's a beast. He hit 12 home runs this year.
Wow.
He's absolute stud. So yeah, that was his best game of the year and was against her team.
So anyway, I was talking with Dean, and this conversation came up with Soto and Harper, and she made the very clear point that the upbringing of both players is such a difference, and you can see how much more Juan Soto wants it.
Yes.
Because he did not grow up playing on 5 travel teams as a ringer, paying to travel all over the country in showcases. Juan Soto grew up on an island where if you want to get off the island, you have to be good enough. And he puts in the work every damn day to get to the point where he can be this player. And that kind of, you can't learn that. And I know Bryce Harper's dad has a blue collar background and all of that, but there's definitely something to that Juan Soto had to work for what he got instead of, doing it on talent alone.
You're completely right. Everybody has their background that kind of defines them, and that's really evident there. They couldn't be more different. And I was talking with my buddy about, we were comparing them during Game 3 when we were watching together. Harper always did his best work when it wasn't needed for the Nats. And that's been the opposite for Soto. I always think about 2012 Game 5 when the Nats went down and Harper came up, and what did he do? He swung at pitches at his eyes and just struck out flailing and looked like a 19-year-old. And you compare that to Soto in the wildcard game. Completely cool, great at bat, gets a hit off
against
of a guy
the best left-handed reliever in baseball,
who had given up one hit to another lefty the entire year.
Who is one of the best hitters in baseball. Maybe
Yes.
not this year, but overall.
Yeah.
In Joey Votto.
Exactly. And we would have been done 2 weeks ago if not for that one hit. And I can't, Harper had some big home runs while he was here and some big plays and stuff, but it was never really in crunch time. You can say, what was it, the Cubs series?
Yeah.
When he pushed that one game, but never an elimination game. And I'm a fan of Harper. He's a great player. He's a generational player, but Soto is just on a different level for me right now.
Yeah. And
it's kind of hard to explain.
yeah, I think that's the thing that we're all going to struggle to figure out here going forward is how do we put into words what he's doing? And I don't think we've quite figured that out yet. We've been trying to figure out what Harper has been doing since he was 15 years old, 16 years old, right? He's been on the radar for that long. He's more than a decade now at this point, or about a decade now at this point. Soto was kind of taken the league by storm in a lot of ways. He wasn't even supposed to be the stud coming out of the national system.
Robles. That's Victor Robles.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden you get into the playoffs when he's part of the team, and you have teams literally lining up relief pitching just to face him at 20 years old, that.
And he's facing the toughest at bats of the entire game.
Everybody's
oh man, he's struggling. I'm he's also getting pitched the hardest out of anybody.
Right. I think I saw during Game 3 he had faced 40 pitches up to that point in the series and gotten 7 fastballs.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Well, you and I talked about that the one against Miller where he had faced 7 pitches and all were sliders from Andrew Miller.
All sliders down the way. Yep.
Andrew Miller.
Yeah. One of the better relievers in baseball, left-handed relievers, if not the best left-handed reliever in baseball.
And you just can't throw him a fastball.
Yeah.
Ever.
So yeah, that's I love watching Juan Soto. I can't wait to see how he continues to grow with this team and have these impactful big moments. Because he hasn't had the best playoffs for a combination of things. One of the most is what you just mentioned with the pitching, but he's still coming through.
Yeah.
He's still got some big hits.
Still grinding at bats regardless of the strikeouts.
Right, like
Yep.
Miller made like not even a mistake the other night or in Game 4. Like it was just kind of a pitch in. It was a slider in the zone by mistake, and he hit it. Like it's like
Yeah.
he's been capitalizing like crazy.
Yeah.
It's
So, should we go ahead and get into game
yeah. I
three?
think we should. I was just about to say that. Yeah, that's
Let's do it.
um,
Strasmus.
yeah. It's kind of the Strasmus we've all been waiting for. You know, it's
It's the most
Yes.
wonderful time of the
exactly.
year.
He's been so good throughout the postseason, and then game 5. I don't even want to say a hiccup, just like a quality start by definition, like 6 innings, 3 runs, and there's
Not up to his standard.
what's that?
Just not up
Yeah,
to his
exactly, not up to his standard, and certainly not up to his standard for this season and this postseason. And so, coming into this game, there was a lot put on his shoulder, and to say he exceeded those expectations would be, I think, the understatement of the century. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
like all he does is come in and give up 7 hits over 7 innings, no earned runs, and strike out 12 people without walking anyone at all. Like, are you kidding me? And to put your team up 3-0, your first ever NLCS game at home, and he's like, "Nah, I got this. Don't worry about it, guys. It's fine." Like, holy crap!
There was
Yeah.
he's the third pitcher I want to say that's ever had that many strikeouts and no walks and no runs, and I think one of them was Garrett Cole, and the other one was like from the 1920s.
Yeah, it was Garrett Cole and someone from, I think it was someone from the 1890s. Actually, I think it was someone from like a
okay.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Perfect. just perfect. So freakish performance. And like you talk about Steven Strasburg's evolution as a pitcher, whereas he's really come into his own, I would say, in the last 2 years, and even more so this year. Like the term bulldog gets thrown around, and that was a masterful bulldog performance.
Yes, it was. That you even think about it, if you just fast forward to the 7th, like his last inning, when he got in that jam, and then Soto made that play.
yeah.
It still cracks me up, but also terrified me at the same time.
I thought he had broken his shoulder
how
or
he's
something. Like I was like, "What the happened?"
Yeah, and how he was able to throw it that far from a knee,
Right.
like nobody be able to catch it was
Through,
pretty incredible.
Through
But
3 people in the infield.
and Strauss not even paying
Yeah.
attention. So when Davey came out, it didn't even cross my mind that he would be taking him out.
Right.
It was like people are like, "Oh, is he taking?" I'm like, "There's no way he's
No
taking
way.
him out." Then went down to face Wieters and Fowler and strike him out with just dirty ass changeups.
Yeah, the changeup
Oh my
is.
I feel like I think I could do this entire episode about Strasburg's changeup in that game because it was orgasmically good. Like it's always good. Like he has the best changeup in baseball, but like the movement on that pitch with the arm slot, and at times he was pumping 96 with the fastball and then throwing a changeup diving away at like 88, 89 miles an hour. It was almost like vintage Strasburg, but like with the modern command that he has. It was like something like we've never seen from him, I think.
I mean,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Dude, go.
Was it game 3 or game 4 where there was a pitch so nasty that either I think it was Martinez or Ozuna literally swung out of their helmet?
That happened, I think, in both
Oh, no.
games.
Was it?
Rosarena.
Or was it Rosarena?
That happened in
And
game.
it
Okay.
was,
That happened in game 4, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, but Strasburg's changeup was literally the kind of pitch where you will swing and miss, and you will get hit on the back
Yeah,
foot
right.
Yep.
with the ball.
Yeah,
it looked like Corbin's slider.
right.
Yeah.
Right, but he's righty. Like he's a righty
Yeah.
pitcher. Like
Yeah.
it had the same movement. It was totally nuts.
Yeah, and I when I got home, I immediately watched. That was the first thing I watched. Was the 12Ks, and where it's just all 12K pitches in a row, and I think 7 or 8 of them were. Well, first of all, I didn't realize every single K was on a breaking ball,
Yeah.
and so watching that was just, it made me laugh the entire time.
Well, that
But change ups plus the umpires. I gotta give a shout out because I forgot who was the umpire, but his ring up call, like that
It-
yell
it
or
was
whatever,
Bill
and then
Miller.
how he like kicked his leg. Bill Miller, yeah, and then he would kick his leg like he was bowling.
Yeah, right.
That's pretty solid. And he switched sides depending on lefty righty, and I really didn't notice that while I was there because I was up in the right field, like up in the nose
like he
piece.
switched which shoulder he was off the catcher.
Yeah, and which way he like punched.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you gotta go back and watch that. First, the sound is awesome, but then the way he's changing it, I don't know if I've ever seen him before.
Yeah.
Or I guess I just didn't realize it
Right.
before.
Well,
But yeah, dude, watching that changeup was nuts.
Speaking of, Craig just brought up like the curveball, like the breaking pitches were so good. Like Strasburg was so amped up, he was throwing his curveball 85, and it was like, but it looked like a slider, except it had like more downward movement. Like it was just totally unhittable. He struck out Goldschmidt on an 85-mile-an-hour curveball. Like, come on, that is not okay.
Was that the first
Yeah,
inning?
that was the first inning.
Looking?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that pitch was dirty.
Yeah,
Right
on the corner, like down and away.
Oh my god, yeah. And Goldschmidt, I thought he had a walk. Started taking off the elbow pad, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh no.
he got you, bud. He got you real good. Yeah, his fastball. He was located. What makes Strasburg good? He locates that fastball, but then like when his breaking pitches are working, it helps him at a whole different level. And then like the breaking pitches he had going in Game 3 were like even better than usual, which is saying something.
Yeah, one of my favorite things on Twitter is Pitching Ninja, and I love when they show his tunnel.
Oh, it's so good.
And you can see all three pitches, like from his hand to halfway to the plate, are in the same spot, and then they just go in different directions from there. You can't. How do you hit that?
It's
Well, clearly you don't.
Well, yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
Just ask the Cardinals, who are at home and licking their wounds.
Very good point.
After a 374 OPS for the series? Yeah.
Well, they got their second hit in the fourth inning because that's how well Strauss was pitching. Who, again, just want to point out, walked nobody. Like, that is the thing I feel like is even more impressive somehow, is like he did all that well and still didn't walk anyone. In modern baseball, even for the best pitchers, to give up 0 walks in a game is something unbelievable.
I mean,
yeah, he was on.
Especially for
Right.
him. Like back in the day, you would have never guessed that he'd be doing this and walking nobody.
Right. Yeah.
That speaking of that single, the first single he gave up was to Ozuna, and I feel like I can't remember which one of you was texting about it, but how Strauss was able to get him out in that rundown.
Oh yeah.
With a perfectly executed funnel back to second base, and then Ozuna just freaked out, so Strauss was able to tag him. Who was it? Pudge? You guys were saying?
It was Pudge. I found the video and tweeted it out.
Yeah, that was Craig. Yeah.
It was Pudge. He ran down Mike Stanton at the time.
Yes.
Mike.
Yep.
Mike, don't call me Mike.
He literally ran out between first and second and just tagged him out. It was September of 11, I want to say.
That would have lined up with Pudge's timeline. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely I took like 10 minutes trying to find the video, and I found a passing mention on Twitter with the date stamp, and I went to the MLB box score and found it. So anyway, yeah,
I need to throw
it reminded me of that.
Yes, I need to throw in a tangent because of this point that you guys made. So I've been obviously enjoying my time here on the show, and I've thought about you guys a lot and how I really enjoy talking Nats baseball with you guys because you are two of the a couple people we follow on Twitter that are so obsessed with this team that we will watch, and we watched when they were terrible, and we watched back when they were at 500, and you can throw out something like a play like that can happen, and one of us is like, hey, remember when Pudge did that 8 years ago?
Right.
And you're like, yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
And then you'll just like we throw in references from like 7-8 years ago and instantly clicks, and I think that's why one of the main reasons why I enjoy talking baseball with you guys, because you have this like encyclopedic knowledge of the Nats, and not too many fans can have a conversation like that and not just feel completely lost. So I just want to throw that
Joey Eischen reference out all day long.
Well, I feel like if you were like, I agree with you, and like when you find someone that you could talk about baseball that way with, like Nats baseball specifically, it's so special because if you were watching the Nats between 2008 and 2011, you really fucking like this team. Like it was, it was not fun.
every day doing
like,
that. Why? I doing
Like,
that?
well, and you look back and you're like, God, several seasons in a row, it was a combination of John Lannon and Levon Hernandez starting
John
opening
Lannon,
day.
your number
Like,
one starter.
and
Stamino's are
yeah,
too.
right. And then those guys started, and like Garrett Mock, like converting to the bullpen. And like, so for me, it really is. And it's certainly not anything like that makes me feel like we are better than anybody else. But it's just like when you look back and you go like, God, this makes this feel real nice. Like it really does. And it makes it fun to talk
been
about.
through some
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. And you could,
Will Nieves and Josh Bard as our
yeah,
coaches.
right.
Josh Bard.
Jesus
Dude.
Flores, man. Come on.
Rule 5 draftee,
Yeah.
Jesus
From the
Flores.
Mets.
So yeah, I just had to throw that in there, and I'm sure we'll touch kind of extend on this with the
Yeah, I
fandom
think we got
stuff.
some-
But
got
yeah,
some to come on.
it kind of hit
Yeah.
me. It should have hit me a lot sooner. Like why I enjoy talking with you guys so much, but then kind of doing the podcast is like, oh yeah, I can throw out a Bernardino reference and they're right on it.
Right.
The original
talk about-
Shark.
Throw out a Detweiler reference and Joe's
Yeah.
right on it.
Do you remember Bill Ladson's? You remember Bill Ladson's nickname for Bernardina that he tried to make fetch happen?
No, what was it?
I vaguely do. I don't
Speed,
know.
Speed
Racer.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. Yep, I do remember
Yeah.
that. Bill
And
Ladson.
for anyone looking, I just retweeted the link to the Mike Stanton
Oh.
getting tagged out between first and second by Pudge Rodriguez, the
Very
catcher.
excellent.
So,
So back,
but yeah, Steven Strasburg, it just brilliantly executed exactly what you want to do. You've got a runner on second, no outs, and you've got a ground ball back to the pitcher, and you get the runner out off of second base, and you replace him with a runner on first, and it was perfect.
well, and a fast runner too, right? Like Ozuna can run. And he's in
Yeah.
scoring position. So I guess is there, you kind of alluded to it, Craig. Like, is there any question for just for the 2019 season that anybody but Strasburg is the number one for this team?
I think he's definitely your number one, especially after Max Scherzer came back from his injury. Scherzer was, at the time he got hurt, the front runner to win the NL Cy Young, and just took him a little while to get back into form. And I would say he's done so quite well here in the
Definitely.
playoffs, especially of late. But I think, without question, Steven Strasburg is who you want to give the ball to in the biggest, highest leverage situation. That being said, I still think Max Scherzer is going to be your Game 1 World Series
Ooh,
starter.
interesting. So what do you say, Yo?
About the World
No,
Series.
just in general,
Or
like,
just about Strauss in general?
Like, is he in 2019, like overall over the course of the season? Like Craig made the point that like Scherz was really good until he got hurt, but Strauss felt like he got to a different level. So I'm kind of wondering if you think that like just for this year, if Strauss has kind of eclipsed as the number one for the rotation.
Yes. I had him starting the wild card game and was very excited every time he was supposed to start in the DS and this past start. Because he has reached a new level for himself, where he is commanding all three pitches, putting them where he wants, and like we were saying in the NLDS, getting pissed when he doesn't throw it exactly how he wants to throw it, even though he just struck out
Right.
the best hitter in the game.
Yeah.
So if it's me, he's starting Game 1. I was talking about it last night with Alan, Max, and Hillary when we were at Salt Line after the game, and so we obviously went through that scenario, and I'm going Strauss.
I would go with Strasburg too, but it's not. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's gonna be. Strauss.
That's why.
I mean, we always do what we want and what's gonna happen. So
I want it to be Strauss, and I think it will be. I really do. I think that.
I mean, they've got 6 days to set their rotation exactly how they want it,
Exactly.
so.
any way they want it at all.
So I do think it will be Strauss. But
Yes.
before,
Caps just stand
nice.
Nope. Waved it off.
Oh, dagger.
What? That
Yep.
didn't go in.
Well, before we get too far into World
We'll
Series
deal with
conversation, we should talk about how the Nationals scored 8 runs against the Cardinals in that game.
How we-
Beautifully so is how they did it.
So, Flaherty obviously,
Well, it was the old man show. It wasn't just the Howie show. It was just the old man show.
which makes it so much better. Old man and young man, Robles had a pretty good game too.
Sure did.
So Flaherty was obviously the guy that the Cardinals were hoping to be the stopgap in that game, right? He's been the best pitcher on the Cardinal staff most of the year. I think he had a 2.3 ERA on the season. Had been really good.
One of the best second halves in baseball.
Exactly.
He gave up 4 runs. He gave up 4 runs in September.
Yeah, that's
That's right.
insane. But then in the third inning, the Nats put a nice little rally together, as you said, Craig, on the backs of some of the more veteran guys, right? Like Robles started it off, and then Eaton, Rendon, and Kendrick all got hits with a Soto walk in between for a 4-run inning early on. And I think that we were all kind of texting each other at that point, like, guys, what is happening? Like, what are we watching right now?
Yeah.
Is this really going on? Like, we're so not used to that scenario, right?
Right. I'm so used to the first of a series, the first home game of a series. The Nationals kind of whimper because that's what's happened in the past, and that's what happened in the Dodgers series. That first game on that Sunday night was absolutely terrible. What was it, 10-4 final, something like that?
Yeah.
Like they just have this long history of just completely falling apart when they get that first home game or the first game overall. And the fact that they're facing such a good pitcher in Flaherty, and they can just, not on the home run, but just piecing together single, double, and just really, keeping the line moving is just what sets this team apart and makes it so different that, they were just able to feel the excitement and keep that momentum going from the 2 games in St. Louis. There it is.
There it is. Nice. That was really nice, Kuzi. So before I touch on your base hits thing, because that's actually a big point I want to make too, but I have to throw in a little story from before Eaton single that started the whole rally. I was talking about. I went to the game with 2 of my high school buddies that played outfield with me, and I was talking with one of them about how Davey, and he's saying, "Do you think the lineup will change at all or anything, regardless of how this series goes?" And got to talking about how that's what I was like, no, because that's how Davey is. Like, he doesn't. My biggest beef about him is doesn't use his eyes to like inform his decisions. Mostly what's on paper, like we were talking about on the podcast. And basically, I was about to say, like, he doesn't even recognize that Michael A should be in for Eaton, and Eaton singles up the middle.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then,
Well, we had that conversation over the weekend, the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And it was during game 2. And it was before, I want to say, before he hit, yes, they did.
Wow.
Before he hit that triple, that huge triple in game 2, where we were all seriously considering just Eaton needs to ride the pine, much in the way we were talking about how Howie needed to ride the pine in the DS. Right. And I believe I made the point on, I think it was Saturday, that Eaton can provide a big hit when you most need it, and he since Saturday has done that several times.
Yep, definitely. Howie's double to right center was an absolute beauty. I love when righties go oppo, like Zim does, like he used to do all the time.
Just Zim, yep, the Zim.
It's literally the Zim, yeah, that alley. But yeah, so going back to the base hits, like we were talking about that, how they had 10 hits in the first game and I think 7 in the second game. I can't remember how many they had this game, but the fact
11.
that they're not hitting home runs right now.
Yeah.
So they had, I can't even add right now, 28 hits in the first 3 games, and 2 of them were home runs.
The Cardinals had what, 11?
Yeah.
Total.
Maybe because they had 7. They had 7 this game.
Yeah.
But this is how baseball is supposed to be played. This is what I'm used to in high school. This is what baseball was in like the 90s, early 2000s, before everybody just started hitting home runs. And this is what wins playoff games. It's what the Astros have been doing for a couple of years now. They got the Red Sox a championship a couple of years ago. I am digging the fact that they are not hitting a lot of home runs right now, and they're still racking up the hits.
Yeah. Which I mean, there's a lot of talk about the baseball.
Oh my God! It's definitely
different. It's definitely a different baseball.
It's definitely
has to be.
Which is good because, like we're saying, the Nationals, although they had a team record in home runs this year, a franchise record, I should say, they don't need to rely on that to get the job done. And that is the difference in why this team now has won the NL pennant and is going to be playing in the World Series because they're not a one-trick pony.
That's what's setting them apart from all the other teams that we've had in the playoffs is the fact that they are going about their business a different way instead of just trying to hit bombs the entire time in 40-degree weather, which has never worked the other 4 times.
Yeah. And I think that, and I know we'll get into this a little bit once we finish talking about the series, but I think Davey deserves a lot of credit, a lot of credit.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on that because yeah.
But going into this game, I think that you and I both picked them to win this game, right? Yeah. And I don't, with Strauss on the mound, it just felt so good. And then they dealt with it handily. They unlike what the Nats have done in previous and future games, like in Game 4, it wasn't like a
score once and then hold on for dear life.
Like
is that what you're gonna say?
That's exactly right. They put runs in four of 8 offensive innings, right? Like they spread it out over the course of the game, and as they kept on going down and they kept on getting offense and putting runs up, and 8 runs on 11 hits means you were pretty damn efficient, with how you played baseball. It was a joy to watch that game. I mean, from beginning to end, I don't know if I ever felt anxious.
Yeah.
I will definitely agree.
Just a super ass whooping.
Yeah.
From start to finish. As soon as they got those 4 runs, it was game over, and they just kept piling on.
To put the Nats within a game of the World Series, just FYI. Yeah. And so I know there's a lot to talk about with Game 4, so I don't want to spend too much time on Game 3, but I think we have to give, and we're going to talk about one of these guys again, but Rodney and Rainey were fucking great.
Yes.
They were
they scored again.
Good.
Sweet. All right.
They were on a 2-man advantage. Of course they scored again.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, when Rodney, because he took, so I was up in the upper deck, but he took like 5 walking steps off the mound before he stopped and did the arrow, and I absolutely lost my mind.
So awesome. Well, he did the arrow towards you, right?
Lost my mind.
Huh?
Like
kind of in your direction.
Right. Yeah, like he's like walking off, and he doesn't. He saves it for saves, but I mean that was such a huge situation that I'm so happy he did that at that point, and kind of surprised everybody because he didn't do it immediately.
Right. Were you guys at all surprised that Davey went to Rodney and Rainey as opposed to Huddy and Dew?
So
no,
you weren't, Leo.
No, I mean I completely understood it.
Yeah,
so I wasn't surprised at I wouldn't say I wasn't surprised, but when he did it, I was like, oh, Davey's learning a little bit. Like that was kind of like my thought. Like he kind of saw the whole field, to use a cliche. Like and that situation with the way it was going up 7, like it made a lot of sense to me, and I'm glad he went that way and not with to tax the big guys, in a 7-run game or whatever.
Yeah, the 7th was huge because how he had that. I think he put the 8th run up, and then Strauss got out of that inning, so we were up 8-1 already.
Right. Yeah, it was your runs after that 4th inning were a Kendrick double, a Zimmerman double, a Victor homer, and then another Zimmerman single.
Right.
Yeah.
So old man knocking old man in over and over.
Right. Craig,
got to mention how Victor's mom was in attendance for the first time and got to see him hit that home run.
That tip of his helmet towards home, and then hearing the story afterwards, like I was a puddle. I was a puddle.
Yeah. Watching the replay is like, oh my God.
Once you know why he did it made it so much more special.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised going back to it that you didn't go to Doolittle and Hudson. Mm-hmm. Specifically because you've got all the extra days off built in for travel. And at this point in the season, you can have your horses go 3 days in a row, which would be the max they would have to do, the maximum, with this at home. And I think both pitchers have done that this year for the team. So I was a little surprised. I know that when Game 1 rolled around and Hudson was away on paternity leave, that Davey had said that Rainey was going to be the guy in his absence to kind of, Dew would be bumped up and then Rainey would be in the Dew spot. And there's a reason for it. The kid throws fire, and he has always been one of those pitchers that if he can command his fastball, then he's going to be completely unhittable. And all of a sudden, down the stretch and into the postseason, he is commanding his fastball, and he is making people look stupid.
I mean, the key at bat there was the Jose Martinez at bat, because Jose Martinez is the best hitter they have, or was the best hitter they had, and he struck him out on 101. He just kept throwing him fastballs. He's like, he just kept challenging him, and he finally missed and made him look kind of silly. I was like, he finally got some. I think that was the first time Jose had been out the entire series.
And it was a center cut fastball at 101, and it just got past him. Like it
just challenged fastball.
It looks straight to me.
I totally
like. It doesn't look like it has a ton of tail or anything like that.
It's what Hunter Strickland thinks he's doing.
Good call. Yeah, it's Rainey deserves a ton of credit for what he's done. I mean, he's looked really unbelievable, and that game was kind of the first experience with that of, like you said, Craig, just like total command, like from beginning to end, never kind of strayed from his command the whole outing.
Well, I think his previous pitching appearance was in that 10-4 loss at home against the Dodgers, and I believe he put up a 0 and 3 batters.
Yeah.
So, the Nationals may have found a third or fourth reliable arm in the pen, which would be absolutely huge.
4's all right.
Now, real quick before we finish up with Game 3, what happened to Juan Soto there?
Yo.
Like that move he did where he was like dancing and he like did not plant his back leg on his little ballet move. Wow.
So purely because of the route he took to the ball, that happened. Because he cuts straight to it like diagonally, and he didn't round it and get around it and start going towards home. So he didn't really he was headed that way. It's kind of hard to plant your foot, and he completely missed his spikes and just ate it. And then we were lucky enough that Jose Martinez wasn't going to go, and then he decides to throw it just past Trey, past Howie, and then Strauss isn't even where he's supposed to be and not even paying attention because it's just like plays over, get it in, and then they score, and Strauss almost hurts himself. So it was just like, it really worried me just because that's the type of player where like, oh, this might turn. And
Cardinals Devil Magic.
Yeah, man, that might have been. There's a bunch of those in Game 4, but yeah, that one was kind of concerning. But then, I'm glad Strauss was able to just shut that down right afterwards.
Yeah, their their second run of the series, and also unearned.
Yes, yeah. So, I think that's all I got for Game 3. Other than there's a stupid Cardinals fan in front of me, but there is a
the guy behind you.
The kid behind me was the better story, though. He's probably about 4 years old. There was definitely something cognitively. There was a deficit there because I don't think he was speaking full words. But they taught his parents were there, and we were like, he was getting all hyped, just waving the towel basically the entire game. And mom and dad were like, yeah, we always pass by the park, and he's always like, let's go to the game. So he finally decided to come to one. I was like,
you coming to this one?
You went to Game 3 of the NLCS. I was like, all right. I paid $150 for these. I hope you didn't pay that much. I was like, shit. But yeah, the kid was all into it. Like we were like making sure we were like squeezing together so he could see past us when we were like standing. And every time anything good happened, he was with the crowd, and we were like high-fiving him and making sure that he looked like he was having a great time. So it was the first baseball game he'd ever been to. And
wow,
quite the game to start your fandom with, I guess.
No kidding. That's awesome.
So I'll just drop the Cardinals fan in front of me. I just got to drop the first line because Tommy Edman came up his first at bat, and he's like, guess how old this guy is? He's 24. Isn't that crazy? He's so good. And I was like, you want to guess how old our left fielder is? And he was like, 34. I was like, what? He's 20. He's like, no, he's not. I was like, yeah, he is. He's
no, he's not.
He said Eden plays left. I was like, Eden does not play left. Juan Soto plays left. He like looks at the scoreboard. He like looks back at me. He's like, why is Juan Soto playing left? I was like, he's played there the entire
Yeah.
year.
That's his position. That's why.
I love
And then
this
like
guy.
right after that, he like slowly turned around and didn't turn around again for like the next 4 innings. And then my favorite was definitely when Strauss, when Davey left Strauss in, he's like, why is he leaving him in? This is crazy. And I was like, well, he's our best pitcher.
And he's shoving.
He's like, yeah,
right
but
now.
you need to save him. You need to save him. I was like, for what?
Yeah.
I was like, if we win this game, like, what are we really saving him for? Plus, we have Anibal still ready, Scherzer full rest. We have Corbin going tomorrow. Like, what were we actually saving him for? And then Strauss goes in and strikes out these next 2 hitters. Like, that's why you leave him
Yeah.
in.
Exactly. Yeah. He's.
The guy, but yeah, he was a great 8. You guys, you guys ever watch Pete and Pete on
Of
Nickelodeon?
course. Yeah.
You look like a grown-up version of the younger Pete.
Really.
Exactly, like reddish hair, slick back, just real douchey like Cardinals fan, just like what you would expect from the best baseball fans Twitter account to be in a person.
God, I love that Twitter account
It's
so
so
much.
Yeah,
I like it more now.
Yeah.
like now.
So
So yeah, I just had to put that in there because that was the experience. And I will say, I was like 5 rows from the top of the stadium, and that was one of the best atmospheres I've been in. If it wasn't Craig, the game we went to, if it wasn't an elimination game, this game would have been better than that one.
Wow.
Yeah, because
That's crazy.
they kicked their ass that game.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close the entire game. It was like just relax and have a great time with everybody around me, except for the Cardinals fans, and just
Which probably was a little fun too.
oh,
of course. Of course.
yeah, just to see them like, oh, it's all about the rings on their way out. I'm like, yeah, leave in the 7th and 8th. God.
Well, in
Beautiful.
the Nats, like you said, the totally trounced the Cardinals to go 3 games up in the championship series, the first time the Nats have ever gotten there, which is also totally insane. And then all they do in game 4 is go up 7 runs in the first fucking inning. Like,
well, not only that, Corbin starts the game with striking out their top 3 with fastballs.
True.
He struck out 12 or 10 in 4 innings.
Right.
Yeah. I believe he's the only pitcher to ever do that in the postseason.
Yeah. And he relied on the fastball, like you said. Like most of the postseason, he's been relying on that slider a lot, and he was all about the fastball, and it looked real good in those first 4 innings.
Yeah, I don't know if does he usually sit at 95 because that's what he was at last night.
It's a little high.
I don't.
Yeah, it's a
what
little
I
high.
don't
It's a
think
little amped up.
Yeah, I feel like 93, 94 is usually where he sits at, but I couldn't remember during the game.
He was definitely amped up, but when that inning started in the first inning, and the offensive side of it, obviously, and single, double, sac fly, double, walk, you're looking at this and you're like, what is actually happening? And then, as per usual, with 2 outs, things keep happening, right? Like it's kind of insane what the team did to put up a touchdown in the first inning. Are you kidding me? Of the game that's going to clinch your franchise's first World Series.
Can I? Dude, go.
I was full on freaking out.
Dude.
Like I believe I posted the Ricky Bobby I don't know what to do with my hands gif because like I really had no clue, and like the first run, the first 2 outs they got were both sacrifices. Like what? Yeah. Everything else was a fucking hit.
I was literally shaking my head the entire inning.
Yeah.
Just nope. I need to outline. I took notes on this. Hudson threw 15 pitches, and then Wainwright threw 4. So I outlined it based on the pitches. 3rd pitch of the game, Trey gets his first hit, which was nice because it was Oppo through the hole, and that's exactly what he needs to do. 4th pitch, Eaton doubles, so they're both on. 5th pitch, Rendon sac fly on the first pitch. 7th pitch, Soto, Oppo double, scores both. 9th pitch, intentional walk, and then 9th pitch is Zim with the error from Edmund to Wong.
Oh.
14 is the Martinez error.
So,
which that answers my question of why he wasn't starting the first 2 games.
But
like that's no doubt his ball, and the entire time he's like, somebody else catch this
Well,
for me.
and like
God, that was the
I
best.
tweeted at the time, Colton Wong turned around. I thought he was about to start sobbing.
Oh my
there was
God,
like a
yeah.
certain point to which I was like, oh, I feel bad for this guy. He
Yeah.
was like, you know, he had dropped that ball earlier, and then he went back on it trying to get Jose's back, and then like Jose was like, no, you get it, man. I don't want that ball. Like it was so
Yeah.
bad.
5 pitches apart. And then Jan singles on the next pitch. Jan singles on his last pitch of the outing, 2-run single. And then Wainwright comes in and gives up the other 2 that put his run total at 7. And he only got 1 out, the sac fly.
Yeah, which is
Wainwright came in and got the other 2.
and like the fact that 7 earned runs were scored on 15 pitches, like that's got to be a record somewhere.
Yeah. And one of my favorite parts about it is Dave Jagler. I watched the replay. It says, "In your wildest imagination, could you have come up with a start like this?" And hell
No.
No, absolutely not. And like, so the planning, the ahead of time work, the scouting on Hudson must have been swing early and swing
Oh,
often.
have to be, yeah.
Yes.
Because that, 15 pitches and 9 pitches, so 19 pitches to bat around and get 7 runs, like that isn't an accident. That doesn't happen by chance.
Turner had 2 hits in 1 inning, like
Which is the
come
best.
on. And Hudson's final line of 1/3 of an inning pitched, 5 hits, 7 runs, 4 earned, like woof. Like it's so bad. It's about as bad as a start as you could possibly imagine, unless you are the Braves in Game 5 of the DS against the Cardinals. Like,
They literally flipped the script.
yeah, exactly. The narrative wrote itself in that situation.
Yeah.
But then, as kind of we alluded to earlier, the offense stopped for the Nationals after that inning entirely.
Yeah, man. Started hitting fly balls all the time. I was like, no.
Yeah, there was definitely a very palpable anxiety going on in the stadium that you could hear on TV,
Yeah,
which
you guys
I'm
asked me
sure
about
Yo could attest to.
Yeah, and I will say, okay, so I have to say I did sit in a suite, and it was like not my favorite fan experience, to be honest.
Whoa! Wait, tell me more about the suite. Like, was it one of the food and drink, or just like
Yes.
sodas, and was it alcoholic drinks?
Yeah,
Man,
the fridge was stocked with beers, and yeah,
Man.
they had like prime rib and mac and cheese, and
Wow.
yeah,
mac
part
and cheese
was
and prime rib.
that part was awesome. But it's weird because like the way where it is in the stadium, it feels like you're separated from everything going on. Like the sound, I don't know, it didn't feel like I was a part of the crowd. It felt like I was kind of like just in the stadium because of where the level kind of plays. It's weird a weird effect where they are. And everybody in the suite is there not for the game.
Yeah.
Or like they're there for the game, but they're like not huge fans. Right. So like they're not like nobody's standing on 2 strikes. It feels like awkward for me to stand there. I'm like the only one standing in like the box.
Right.
and I'm like going nuts and like losing my shit, and everybody's just kind of just chilling otherwise and just talking about random shit. And it was just a weird experience that I didn't really enjoy as much as like the game I went to with Craig or the game I went to Game 3 where I was up 5. Like I enjoyed my time more in the 5 rows above the top of the stadium than I did when I was in the suite, other than like the food and the drink. It was weird.
No, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. I've been fortunate enough once or twice to be down in really good seats, and it's definitely more of a like, look at me, look where I am kind of situation, as opposed to a real fans. I remember, I know I've told the story before, but when I went to Randy Johnson's 300th win, I got fan of the game, and it was after the first inning of a traditional single admission doubleheader. And so they sent you down to the Diamond Club, and you got food and drink credit. And the ushers kept bringing me drinks after my food and drink credit ran out because they were like, it's nice to actually have a fan down there.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like there is something to that, like that fan experience and what you're there to watch, and that's it's interesting that you had that experience. I'm glad you shared that, yo.
Yeah, and I was sitting front row of the box, like luckily, because I had to like clean my seat and I got there at the right time. But it was nice having a little table in front of me and like room for my legs. Like the comfort was awesome. But in terms of like being a part of the experience, I felt slightly left out, to be honest. Like it was so much better being in the whole section of people standing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of
As
standing
uncomfortable,
in that game four. It looked like on TV.
yeah, and as uncomfortable
And
as it
in
is,
my
like it's
Yeah,
apartment.
right.
yeah, yeah. That was definitely when it got to the fifth and Corbin was struggling. We were up six
Yeah,
runs, and I'm like, oh, this is feeling way too
Yeah.
familiar.
to be slightly crass, he blew his load early.
Oh no,
Yeah.
he did. He spent it
Yeah.
all in those strikeouts.
I mean, he was absolutely dominant for the first 4 innings, and then completely ran out of gas.
And then Cuzzy like falls asleep at the wheel
Yeah.
behind the plate.
Yeah.
Stopped calling strikes all of a sudden entirely.
So that was the one other thing that the one advantage I did have was I had a television screen like right above me, and it was like probably a half a second behind live, so I'd see the pitch live, see the call, and was able to like look straight up and see where it was on the pitch
Yeah.
cast. And I was like, I'm like, you've been calling these all game, and now we don't want to call them. And then after that inning, he started calling them like a little off the plate
Yeah.
again. And I was like, why did that change for one inning?
But at the same time, Corbin completely lost his fastball in that fifth inning.
Oh,
it
he
was
did.
gone.
He was yanking both. He was yanking both the fastball and slider. Everything was in the right-handed batter's box. So yes, I agree. But like the strike zone's a strike zone.
Oh, I
It doesn't
totally
matter how
agree.
it's pitching.
You know, I agree with that. I mean, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
that's true. But what do you guys think about Davey sticking with Corbin in that situation? You know, things obviously seem to be kind of devolving a little bit. You know, a couple of walks early on and a hit. Sticking with him in that spot rather than maybe going to a very, very rested bullpen early. What do you guys think about that?
I personally would have gone to the pen a little bit earlier. I understand why he didn't, and I don't think I'm pretty sure I probably made the joke that the win doesn't matter, because he has that tendency during the
Gotta
regular
get through
season.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think when you look at the 2 batters he ended up, I believe, striking out to end the inning, they were both hitters he had dominated up until that point, and he did so again. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's.
Yeah.
I think he got 2 strikeouts, and I want to say it might have been Goldschmidt and
Yep.
Mark
And Ozuna. Yeah, it
or,
was. And
yeah.
it was Ozuna on 3 pitches. I mean, Ozuna had a.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure both of them, it was their 3rd strikeout of the day.
And it was all sliders against Ozuna in probably the worst series of his career. I mean, he was awful the whole way through. So
from a
do get
matchup
that,
standpoint,
totally.
Yeah, from a matchup standpoint, I think, his pitch count's low enough because, I mean, he was at 50 pitches, I want to say, maybe 49 pitches through 4 innings with a crap ton of strikeouts.
Yeah.
And, so he had bullets left. I don't think once he laid off a little bit that it was going to, risk injury or anything like that. But I would have made a different decision, but I understand the reasoning behind leaving him in specifically for those 2 batters because he had just owned them.
I think you have a valid point, but I also think that he got caught off guard.
Yeah.
He was not able to get somebody up, so then he probably got to that matchup and was like, oh, he's done pretty well against them, so we'll just let him ride, and we have a huge lead anyway, so let's see. I think it caught everybody off guard. Everybody's like, oh, he's rolling, and then all of a sudden he can't find the strike zone, and then it builds up really fast, guys get on base, and then he's like, oh, we have nobody up in the pen, so, it's actually a good matchup, so let's just keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Goldschmidt and Ozuna just had terrible series. Goldschmidt looked downright awful the
Both
entire
of them
series.
did.
Striking off
They
fastballs.
looked terrible.
Yeah, both. I don't know how. You kept looking at the record. How did they? So they're batting 400 in the NLDS. What happened to them? Ozuna's 3 sliders in the dirt, not anywhere close. And both of them gifted Corbin the end of that inning.
Totally. Because Corbin didn't have it at all.
No, he should not have gotten out of that inning without giving up more runs. The Jose Martinez double was legit. And Jose thought he got it, but he forgot that the wall's like 15 feet high in right field.
Well, and
And that it's October ball.
yeah, and
yeah, but he killed it.
And Corbin got away with the fourth, fifth, and sixth pitches were all fastballs, all like in the middle of the zone. Like and Goldschmidt couldn't turn around on any of them. Like he kind of blew it. You know, he had the opportunity to do it. And I kind of agree with you, Yo, that once I saw walk single in that fifth inning, I'm getting somebody up. You know, for me.
No question.
You see how he walked the guy. It wasn't close. You have to get somebody up. That's the thing with Davies. He doesn't see that.
Because it's like you said, basically this whole postseason, like he doesn't see anything that's not in his book, right? Like Corbin will get through 5. He's been cruising through 4. Nothing bad will happen, and then something bad happens, and then it's scrambling on the phone to get somebody warmed up in the bullpen, right? Like that's So I will say that I had 2 moments in this game where I got nervous. The first one was in the 5th inning when it became a 3-run game all of a sudden, and I definitely had that game 5 2012 PTSD moment, right? Like in that inning, like we are 1 hit away from a tie baseball game here, and then luckily he got out of it and it didn't end up hurting anybody, and then. Rainey was once again absolutely spectacular when he came in, hit with his pitching.
Yeah, the other time was the end of Doolittle's outing when we went to Hudson.
Those were my 2 spots. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that's when the Game 5 tweets started rolling in.
Yeah, right.
I was getting uneasy on Twitter, and I was everybody's.
That's when I put down Twitter. To be totally honest, I signed off of Twitter for a little while because. When Hudson got into that spot in the 8th inning where it got to be bases loaded, I was like,
that self-inflicted jam with a hit by pitch and a walk to load the bases. Yeah,
and then you're like, this isn't good. Like this is going to be a problem.
And then he has to pitch the 9th. Like no other option.
Well, once he got out of trouble, he was fine.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I was like when he went into the 9th. I was like, oh okay. Well, he should be better now that there's nobody on base.
And one of the things I really, 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 really want to highlight that I love about what Davey's been doing this postseason, he is making defensive subs.
Really good ones.
I wish this happened in the regular season more, where you see, Michael Taylor come in for, Adam Eaton or something like that. But he brought in Dozier for Howie Kendrick.
Or even Soto if Soto's not about to hit. Right, like if you've got a lead, like Soto's a liability in left field for the most part. Like he's been better, but I'd rather Taylor. Like he's so much better.
Yeah, and Eaton's got that rocket arm.
Yeah, right.
So he made the big defensive change. Was it at the start of the 8th inning? Or was it middle?
No,
it was.
What? It was a double switch.
It was a double switch, right?
The Hudson double switch.
Double switch.
And of course, the final out of that inning was to Brian Dozier.
And it was a hard play. It was a hard hit ball. Lots of weird hops, and he played it well off of his chest.
Yeah, and Howie has had a rough defensive postseason.
Definitely.
Do you guys remember that play that Trey ended up catching? That who hit that?
That rocket.
Yeah, I definitely thought that was going to eat him up. I'm surprised he got that in his glove.
That short hop was tough. Really tough.
That's the one I thought would look like Dozier's play later. Like off his chest, he had to pick it up and throw it. But I was like, whoa, he caught that. I was like, wow.
Trey, like when I think back to, not to go big on Formanat shortstops, but when I think back on Desmond and Espinosa, who like we have lauded as great defensive shortstops, and they were. There's no question that that's true.
Yeah.
But like Trey has done some really spectacular stuff there, and I think that his focus has been on his bat and his speed so much that kind of falls flat a little bit. But he's been really good in that position.
Yeah, he has. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better shortstop right now.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was huge, absolutely a huge out because, like we said, I mean, they were one swing from being down in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt Carpenter. That
That's
bat,
what scared me. Matt Carpenter coming in is what scared me.
that at bat almost
Yeah.
killed me because he would not throw a
Yeah.
slider. I was like, why do you keep throwing this guy fastballs? He's gonna hit one.
Yeah, right.
Like that's what he does.
Yep.
He
That's
feasts
what he
on
does. He hits
fastballs.
fastballs far.
And
Yeah.
Hudson just kept throwing him 97, 97, 97, 90. I'm like, when are you going to throw something different? He's going to strike out. And then he just got it far enough in the corner that he got him to roll over. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, that
Yeah, it was clutch.
and that was, I think that even with that, like in the inning where there was a bit of a rally for the Cardinals in the fifth, I still think that eighth inning was probably the most stressful inning of the game.
Yeah. Oh, no
Yeah.
question.
No question.
No question, the most stressful. And for me personally, once Hudson got that final out, you had the bottom of the order. You had 8-9-1 coming up. I just felt confident. I felt good. I thought, Hudson powered through, and I think if you get him a clean inning, he's going to be much more comfortable. And the Nationals in the bottom of the eighth did not expect much to happen. You don't want your reliever sitting. I'm pretty sure they were probably swinging early. And I believe it was fly out, strikeout,
Yeah, and completely cool
Yeah,
with that.
totally.
which I was barely like, I was paying attention, but I was like, that was not my concern.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
an additional run would have been great, but I was more like, okay, let's
Get
get
him back out
to,
there.
let's get back to Hudson. Let's close. Like, if given the option, I would have said, let's skip the bottom of
Yeah.
the eighth and
Just-
go straight.
just
to the
leave
top of
him
the
out
mountain.
there.
Like, can we just keep going with this right now? Like, just to get it done. So I felt much more comfortable once we got to that point. So then in the ninth, Colton Wong came up, who had a terrible game 1 through 3, got moved down to 8th in the lineup, and I believe had 2 hits.
Yeah, he did. He was 2 for 4.
Like, all of a sudden, changing it up really worked for him. He hit I think it was a fly ball to Soto, and it was not a comfortable looking play. It was a tough play.
He
for
went
Soto.
back on it.
Like, he was running.
It drifted
Yeah.
a lot from my point of view. Like it started more towards him and then started drifting towards the line late. And
And
He's-
you were on the third base line, yes?
yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it like came towards me. Like I thought there was a chance it might even be foul, and then I was like, oh no, he settled. But yeah, I'm glad he just kept moving his feet there.
Yeah, it was. That was a tough play. I don't even
Yeah.
know. Did he end up settling under it, or was it a running catch? Like,
It
I don't.
It was like on the jog.
Yeah.
It wasn't on the like a full
Okay.
sprint or anything. It was like he
Yeah.
got to the spot. Okay.
Definitely a tough play. Matt Wieters,
That
former
was that was
Nationals,
fun.
great
Yeah, that was fun.
with
I-
the weak pop out,
Least surprising thing
which
ever.
we've come to know
Yeah,
and love.
exactly.
Yeah, it's not
when-
a strikeout; it's a lazy pop up.
that one sealed it for me because the wild card game, the second out of the ninth inning was a pop out to the catcher. I was like, oh, okay, similar script. Let's go.
And
Wieters,
then
I will
again,
say,
fly out to center.
Fly to center. See,
Wieters did put
Same
a
thing.
pretty good swing on. There was I think it was a fastball up.
He roped one
Yeah,
foul.
Oh,
that was a
yeah,
home
yeah.
run if it's 15 feet to his left. Like that's. I mean,
Yep.
he killed that thing, but that's Matt Wieters, right? Like that's what we got used to over a couple of years. But and then, like you said, Craig, fly out to center field.
For the third straight series
Yep.
clinching play.
Victor's gotten to do his dance.
Yeah,
Oh, I love it so much.
yeah.
So the Nationals sweep the Cardinals. What was it? What was the stat going into the game? It was 35 series had gone 3-0, and 29 of them had ended in 4.
Was it that good? I had
Oh,
no
really?
idea. That's crazy.
It was
I didn't know that
something
either.
crazy like that. Yeah, that was
Like
the
one
stat going
exception
in.
was the Yankees.
That like 4 or 5 ended in games 5 and 6, and the only one that made it to 7 games was
Red
the Red
Sox
Sox
beating
beating
the
the
Yankees,
Yankees. Like the only one that even made it to a 7 was
That's
that one.
crazy.
So, like, was feeling confident, but the way they did it just absolutely dismantled them. The Cardinals, who had a really solid offense throughout the year. And ask any Cardinals fan, they'll be the first to tell you that this has been the Cardinals team. Periods of score 10 runs in an inning and then go to sleep for a while, take a couple games off. And so they've kind of had a very manic season in that stretch, but they ended the series at a 374 OPS.
Oh my God.
OPS,
Holy
yes.
Jesus.
Which is the worst of any of the, I want to get this right. I think it's 172 different teams have played at least 4 LCS games, and they had the lowest OPS, the lowest batting average, and the fewest runs scored ever.
Dude, imagine if Yachty didn't hit that home run.
Yeah, right. You could limp into it even worse than they did, right?
Seriously, I'm glad you brought up the Yankees Red Sox series, that the Red Sox came back from 3-0, because
Freshman college.
a lot of similarities to that series from, like, I guess the Dodgers, like getting over our hump, and then what happens next.
Yeah.
Do you remember what happened next?
Yeah.
They swept the Cardinals.
Yep, in the World Series, and a really good Cardinals team too.
Yeah, that was my first thought, though.
Pujols in his prime.
Going into that game
like,
3-0, man, that was my thought, right? Like, going into that game, that game 3-0, it's like, oh, please just get this over with. Like, I just didn't want to have that hanging over our head, you know?
Yeah, there's a talk of, like, you don't want them to finish too early because then they'll get rusty, and I'm like, no, you end it as fast as you can.
You end it when you can end it.
And you can
set up your rotation however you want and have everyone get rest.
Especially when the rotation is the best thing you have going.
Yes, and that's the most important part right now. I was driving to the game, and for some reason I was like, I don't know if I wanted it to happen or I thought it was going to happen, but I was like, man, I really hope they just blow the doors off the Cardinals tonight. And that's, I mean, they kind of did. They made it stressful, but like that first inning was just like,
well, they did make it stressful, but I'm not sure if I made the point on Twitter or in one of my 4 or 5 group chats I was in. That the Nationals, like, when it was stressful, they had a 3-run lead, which was one of the larger leads they'd had up until, like, for the first 2 games. Like, it was that. Like, it was really close the whole game. It was just dominant and felt comfortable at the time. So in the grand scheme of things, it was a pretty good size lead for how the series was.
No, go ahead,
I was just gonna say, just a continuation of the domination of the entire series.
Yeah, and
they just completely outplayed the Cardinals in every facet of the game.
And I think a lot of that reaction was just complete Nationals fan PTSD, right? Like we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen with this team. So I don't think it's an unfair reaction to go look and see the Cardinals creeping up on you and go, oh, I don't like this. You know, I think that is totally fair and reasonable. But you're totally right, Craig, that a 3-run lead in that situation is about as good as it's been through the series, except for in Game 3. Right, like they were in a good spot after they got out of a couple of jams.
I mean, we finally got to feel what the NLCS was supposed to feel like the entire time in Game 4, having a 3-run lead and being up 3 in the series, which is like ridiculous to think about. Like, I was that stressed out in that situation, but I was like, I don't want to give them any life if they win this game.
No hope.
Or if they can come back from a 7-run first inning deficit, like what would stop them from going and winning all 4 games?
That's some juju,
Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just thought it was interesting that they waited until the 4th game to kind of give us that stress, and I'm kind of glad it was only there. But I just don't know how many different ways you could, like, really explain or how you felt about how they played that series, because that's literally like the best. Has to be like the best 4-run stretch in like their history.
Yeah.
Well, the Nationals are also on their best 19 game stretch in history.
16 out of 18.
Yeah, and I was there for one of the losses.
God bless you, Craig.
I was there for one loss.
God bless both of you.
Yeah.
But the Nats finally finish a sweep in their first NLCS, which is kind of absolutely.
The Nationals have never lost a CS game in their history,
and
they have never been losing.
Yeah, they never trailed in an NLCS.
Never trailed.
They're the second. They're the second team ever. I want to say it was the '96 Orioles that I believe beat the Red Sox and never trailed in a series. So, but yeah, second team ever to not be down in a series ever.
They had 37 hits
It's in 4 games.
in 4
To
games. 2
18?
were home runs.
Oh God.
Huh?
How many
I
of the
don't know how
Cardinals
many
have?
theirs-
18?
They had 5, 12, 13 plus 4, like 17 or
Yeah.
18. Yeah,
17. Yeah.
That's
like double.
not awesome for the Cardinals. So
No.
I-
I mean, they probably got 17 freaking hits in that first inning against the Braves.
Right.
And dude, their first legit run of the series was Yadier's home run in the 5th inning of Game 4 or whatever inning it was.
Yeah, their first earned run.
Their first real like true like they earned that
Right.
run instead of just us messing around and like not catching the
right.
ball.
Right.
And
No, it was an absolutely incredible performance, and I remember saying to a friend of the show, I believe it was the day of the wild card game or the day before the wild card game, maybe, and it was something along the lines of, I really feel that if the Nationals can get past a 1-game like coin flip, that
Mhm.
this team is much better built for a longer series. And at the time, he was like, "That's
Who was it?
preposterous. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." What?
What friend of the
who
show?
was it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan
Nice.
Sullivan.
Which
My bad.
friend?
I forgot that.
We
part.
have so many
Forgot his
friends,
name,
Craig.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention which friend it was. I don't have many friends. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
shut up.
But I said to him, like, I really think that if they get past a 1 game, their team is much more built for a 5 or 7 game series. He said, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. That makes no sense. Their bullpen's not very good. I made the points that I've made here a bunch of times. Off days, you can rely on your horses, your starting pitching, and then, use Doolittle and Hudson. And you really don't need much more than that. And that's exactly what kind of has played out. You have seen your starting pitching. I can't remember the specific numbers, but it was something like there were 10 going into game 3, maybe, that 10 of the outs or something were by 6. Every out but 10 or something had been by 6 pitchers,
That's crazy.
like through 8 playoff games.
Totally nuts.
Wow.
And they've done that to a T. And to this point, like you have Rainey, Rodney each got an inning, or Rainey got
Yep.
2 innings. You've seen Dew and you've seen Hudson, and then your starters.
Yeah, coming through in relief.
Yeah, I mean, Roenis Elias was on the CS roster. He did not get
Nope.
in.
Yeah, he still used Corbin. He used Corbin over him.
Yep, Guerra was on the roster. Did not
Yep.
see him. So they're doing it with the pieces they have, and they're using the off days and the rest and the starting pitching dominance to their advantage. And it's borne out that longer series much more favors this team than a 1 game anything can happen, which is great, which is exactly what you want.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I like that Trey won and Zook got off the schneid a little bit, getting hits in Game 4.
Especially Zook, who has looked rough
Yes,
until that game.
finally.
Yeah.
Or no, I think his was Game 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because Gillum started.
Oh, game 3,
Game
because
3,
Gome
sorry.
started 4. Yeah.
Because Gillum started Game 4. But yeah, Juan's game last night was great. Hit that double down the line, and then got 2 more base hits and real comfortable swings. Back to where he was before this series, pretty much. And then Trey getting on. Still crazy that we haven't attempted to steal yet.
I know. Crazy.
We're doing this
But
without
we better
stealing.
do it. We better do it in the World Series because I want a free taco. Damn it!
Who doesn't want a free taco?
Well,
Seriously.
we have to talk about our NLCS predictions because we all made them. We were all wrong in all the best ways possible.
Yes.
So I think we'll start with you, Yo, because you went a totally different way.
Yeah, I was like completely off.
You had
Um,
cards in 7, right?
Yeah, I thought they were going to be able to battle, but I didn't think that they would be able to come through because I did not expect our starters to be this dominant. Because my whole thing has been if they get to 6 or 7 innings and they only have to use Doolittle, Hudson, and maybe one other person, they would win. Um, Nobody could have expected how these 4 pitchers have just gone up there and shoved these last 4 out of 5 days. So I am glad I was completely wrong, and I severely overestimated the Cardinals. I think the Braves must have played just not good at all
Yeah.
because the Cardinals, by the end of that, showed and proved that they weren't that good of a team.
At all.
And so I completely misjudged them. I think the Braves just didn't play, and I think it really cements that the Braves didn't really play how they were supposed to play.
Well, and it also came down to one game, and they were out of it before 3 outs were recorded. Like,
I mean, the Braves shouldn't have even gotten there
that's true.
because the Cardinals, I mean, obviously maybe they didn't play their best, but they just didn't look impressive at any point in that series. Except for Jose Martinez.
Yeah.
Like, he's the only one that
He's
was
the
like, man,
only
this guy
player.
is
Yeah.
good. Yeah. And he can't play
No.
defense. So you're not going to win a 7-game series with one guy hitting.
I had the Nats in 7, which I just expected like an agita-inducing heart attack series, right? Like
Yeah.
where it was
Yeah.
like every game was going down to the last out, and like the Nats somehow with some combination in Game 7 of Corbin, Strasburg, Scherzer, Doolittle, and Hudson would pull it out.
Everybody,
like, honestly, that was like my whole thought process, and to not have that happen was welcome. But I think Craig was certainly the closest. You had Nats in 6, right? But
Yes. Yeah,
Because
Nats
it's not
in
supposed to be
6.
this easy.
no, it shouldn't be this easy.
No, and it's very strange that it happened. I did not expect Anibal Sanchez to have the second longest no-hit appearance in the postseason and in NL history. Like, did not expect that to happen at all. Like, and I expected Scherzer to be good, but maybe the offense slows down in the game, and Scherzer gives up his 2-3 home runs, solo home runs, and the Nats can't make up for it. But I thought otherwise, the Nats stood a good chance. I was obviously the most confident out of the 3 of us that the Nats would pull it out in
Less than 7.
Yeah.
more comfortable fashion than, a winner take all. But I did not see 4. Like, if you'd have told me a week ago that the Nats would sweep, I wouldn't have believed you. I probably wouldn't have even picked 5 games.
No way.
You're just like, stop talking to me. You're being
Yeah.
ridiculous.
this
Okay, Homerson.
this guy has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Come on. Yeah, what an idiot.
So, it was. I just can't believe it happened. Like, the Nationals started the season 19-31, and they just won the NL pennant. Like, they're playing in the World Series. Like, just the World Series. After all of the years where the Nationals came in, won the East, the division was wrapped up by the first week of September. They're juggernaut. They're winning 98 games. This is the year where the Nationals put it together. And whatever happens from here, fuck me, dude. Like, this has been the best season I've ever been pleasure to watch. It's just, I'm so thrilled that, if you face off against the Astros and the Astros sweep the Nats in 4 games, like, I'm still going to be over the moon.
I'm so glad you said that, because I actually joked with a coworker today about this. I said, I'm at the point now that, like, I don't want it to happen, but I do not care if the Nationals get swept in the World Series at this point. Like, at this point, with everything that's happened, it's so insane to me that we are where we are.
Don't get me wrong. I want to win the whole fucking thing.
I want to win the whole thing in 4 wins, right? Like let's sweep another series. But, like, if it didn't go that way and the Nationals ended up losing, like, I would still be so overjoyed by this year. I mean,
like I would say, when's the parade?
Yeah,
still?
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
where's the parade? Like, where can I go and meet the team and say
Yeah.
thank you? Like,
totally.
because it's a team, and I know we've talked a little bit about Davey before, leading into this and our concerns with him. I think we all are probably pretty comfortable saying best and most successful manager in Nats history by this point.
Yep.
I would agree. I think he's been kind of. There have been some calls that he's been bailed out on by his players finally executing better than expected, probably. But yeah, I mean, you can't dispute it at this point.
Yeah.
Every, go ahead.
Not only got us a playoff series win in the wild card game, which I'm counting.
Yeah.
They popped champagne, and that counts. Winning the DS against a 106 win team, and then sweeping the CS to make it to the fucking World Series. The World Series. Like, there are 3 teams left, and we are one of them.
And guaranteed to be one of 2.
Yeah. Like, I posted a screenshot from my app, and it's literally next game, Washington versus AL champion. Like, that's what it says. TBD, everything. AL City. And I'm like, this is real life. Game 1 of the World Series is our next game. Like, the world will be watching. It's absolutely unreal to me that the team that as of May 30 or 24th was 3rd worst in baseball. Yeah. The stat that I love the most. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me vamp.
Well, while you search for it, I want to know. Oh, you got it. Go ahead.
On June 1, the Nationals had the same record as the Detroit Tigers, who finished the season 47-114.
Oh, Jesus.
They had the exact same record on June 1st.
That's insane.
And the Nationals just won the NL. And Detroit finished with 47 wins.
Yeah. I want to know, we all have pretty strong thoughts about Davey and have throughout the year, I think, for various reasons. But I want to know what you have to think about, like, from, Craig and I both obviously lean stats and shifts and, all sorts of analytics. And I want to know.
They're shifting more than they did during the regular season, too. Where's the shifting during the regular season?
I'm with you, but I want to know what are you seeing from, like, him as a manager? Obviously, the players are responding, right? Like, what are you, as a coach, as someone who knows what it's like
way more
to
than
be in that role? Like, what are you seeing, and, like, what do you feel about what Davey's been able to do with this team after, like what Craig said, like 19-31 on May 23rd?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that kind of turned me off his first year is how when they were struggling, he wouldn't ever change his tune. He always stayed even keel, and I think that's what was the key this year, was that he continued to do that and nobody freaked out. Part of that losing streak and being so bad back then was like Soto was out, Trey was out. I think even Rendon was out at one point.
Yep.
There's only a couple good pitchers. Our bullpen was horrendous, so like it made sense why we were where we were, and then we got some key guys back. And he continues to just stay the path and do his thing. And then this postseason has been just completely eye-opening. My only beef with him is that he just doesn't use his eyes, but he's been adapting and learning throughout these how many games has it been? 10 games that we played in the postseason, and it's been awesome to see. He has changed my mind a lot about him, and I'm with Craig. It's like we need to see this during the regular season. Obviously, not to the extreme that it needs to be in the playoffs, but why not try to be this type of manager in crucial games during the regular season? Like, we might have had a shot at the Braves if he's managing like this during the regular season and not even worrying about a wild card game.
Mike Rizzo said yesterday or last night after the celebration that when asked about not letting Martinez go when things were really bad, he said he is a good manager, but he's also shown us now that he can be a great manager.
Yeah.
For me, I've been as brutal as anybody on Davey throughout the course of the last 2 years. I thought that pretty quickly I came to the conclusion that the Nats made the wrong choice. And I've spent a lot of time even getting to the NLCS, not irrelevant to the games won in the NLCS and sweeping the Cardinals and everything else. I've spent a lot of time for the last week, and then more specifically, going into a game 3-0 for game 4, and then after the wins, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what Davey has done and has meant to the team, and watching, Howie's and Zim's interviews after the game and everything else. I don't want to say I completely have come around on him, but at the same time, I understand how little credit I gave him for what he was doing with that team. And while I completely agree with you, Johan, that he kind of, throughout the course of the season, he made some kind of boneheaded choices. He didn't have a lot of good options to go to. And I think that the more I've thought about it, those guys, it's the proverbial, those guys would run through a brick wall for him right now. He never wavered.
Yeah.
He freaking had a hard episode on the bench, and the team's like, no, that's fine. That's cool. Like, we want him back. Like, he's our guy. This is how much he cares about us. We're a family. We're a group. And, like, we have seen some cool, tight-knit teams in this city, but to watch those guys react the way they react to each other, of all different age groups, ethnicities, backgrounds, that has to come back to some sort of uniting force. And I think it'd be silly to not give Davey a bunch of that credit. He found a way.
To the people in the clubhouse, I know Mike Rizzo made it a point to get strong clubhouse guys this past offseason, like Brian Dozier. I mean, there was a reason he picked up Para immediately when he was available, because he was in Arizona, I believe, and I think he was a Rizzo guy.
Well, yeah, initially, early in his career, he was in Arizona for a bunch of years.
But they made a point to pick up guys that were strong clubhouse guys, Jan Gomes, Kurt Suzuki, these type players, and I have never been as staunch as some stat-focused people that's completely dismissed clubhouse chemistry just because you can't quantify it. And the way I've kind of justified it to others and in my own mind is, imagine if you're in a job and you fucking hate your boss.
Yeah.
Your boss is terrible. Your coworkers are annoying as hell. You don't work as well. You don't show up to work with a good attitude. But if you're in a situation where you like the people you're working around, there's a great atmosphere, you feel supported, you are going to want to do better at your job. Like, that's just, you don't need to quantify it to see that that is true just from searching your own personal experience. So there's a lot to be said about how much this team has got each other's backs and support each other. I mean, look at Steven Strasburg getting the group hug and smiling while he's being hugged by everyone.
Dancing at the end of at the celebration, dancing with Para at the end,
with Para, with Gerard.
Gerard. Yes.
There was an article that I want to say I retweeted a couple hours ago that I'll try and find again. That is about Brian Dozier and his real focus to learn Spanish, to listen to Latino songs so that, he can connect with his Latino teammates. And the article specifically states that, sometimes like Anibal Sanchez or Gerardo Parra got mad at him for only speaking Spanish to them. They're like, dude, you can speak English. And he's like, no, I want to learn. I want to keep learning. I need to get better at Spanish. And how much it means to those players that they feel included. So it's not no, you're here, you need to speak what we're speaking, but no, I'm coming to you, and because we're all in this together. And it's just, there's a lot of great things happening in this clubhouse, and I think that's a huge reason why the Nationals are going to the World Series.
Good Lord.
God, I love you.
Yeah, I know.
So I love that we're talking about.
Shirt.
I love that we're talking about team chemistry right now, because as a high school coach, it's all important because you're not playing for anything but your school and yourself and your family. So team chemistry is so huge in high school and college, but you can dismiss it when it's pros because they have alternative motivations than being as a part of the team. But after the game, we were at Salt Line, Alan, Max, and I, and then my buddy Dries, who I played high school baseball with, met up with us, and I introduced him to Alan, and everybody's just talking about the team and everything. And those two ended up talking about the three unifying factors of the team are three veterans that are in the separate parts of the team. First one obviously was Gerard Parra, and how
Yes.
when he got there,
Oh,
the
that's so good.
obviously number one, changing of the clubhouse atmosphere as soon as he showed up to the team. He's like, we are going to have fun and we are going to celebrate and we're going to just do this entire year, and just everybody bought in, and you see the result now. Two, obviously Anibal Sanchez, his partner in crime in the dugout, the starters. So he represents the starters. And then the one that nobody thinks of that they made a good point, and it was like an aha moment for me, was Fernando Rodney in the bullpen. So you have those three guys like leading the whole unifying force of the entire team. It makes me think of the Rodney thing when he's doing the turkey. I don't even know if they're saying like long live the turkey or
God,
whatever.
it's the greatest.
And like it never dawned on me that Fernando Rodney was the guy. He was the Parra, he was the Anibal Sanchez of the bullpen. And that's what really I feel like has gelled this team together. It's rarely do you have a representative from each part of the team kind of unifying everybody. It's like sometimes a bullpen will be its own thing, the starters will be their own thing, and then the offense is their own thing. But like that's what I feel like is they made a like super great point when they're talking about that, and I was like, it finally clicked in my head. I was like, that I think that's completely true. Those three are a big unifying force of this team, and like that's why they're playing so well right now as a unit, because they're all feeding off each other, the entire team.
I'm so glad we got an NLCS Baby Shark.
Oh yeah.
And then he got a hit.
He fucking ropes one.
I mean, I think, dude, as soon as Baby Shark ended, it erupted. I think I texted you guys like, man, that riled this place up so hard, and then he got the hit, and it just got even louder again.
Which is just a perfect encapsulation of Gerard Parra.
Yeah, so good.
Like, and his impact on the team and the fans.
Yeah.
Like, it's so ridiculous. It is borderline like rally monkey ridiculous.
Oh, but it's so great.
That shit's gonna happen in the World Series.
Right. Yeah.
It's gonna happen in front of
in the World Series.
There's gonna be.
Gosh, can you imagine?
There's gonna be 100 million. There's gonna be 100 million people watching Nationals Park do fucking Baby Shark. It's gonna be amazing.
Oh, so good. No, it's so great to see, and so the focus on clubhouse guys is really, really paid off. And then one of the things I really, really appreciate, the players that did not make the DS roster or the CS roster. I'm looking at you, Aaron Barrett. He is there.
Oh, totally.
He is in everything. He's included in everything. And like, I don't want to like single out. I'm sure Strickland's there. I'm sure that the other players that didn't make the roster are there as well.
Reed is there.
But they're all there, and they're all in the team pictures. They're all in the celebrations, and they're not like on the sidelines, like watching their teammates celebrate their accomplishments, because it's all of their accomplishments, and they're all included in it. And I think that is so awesome to see.
It was funny because they all went to Salt Line after the game. I got a picture with Barrett, and I think Max was out. J-Dub was there. Max was there. Davey showed up with the trophy. Everybody went nuts. It was like 2:00 in the morning before I left. But it was funny because I was there with Alan, Max, and Hillary, and every, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes or so, we'd kind of just look at each other and be like, yo, they're going to the World Series. Like literally every 5 minutes we had to just kept reminding each other, and it's just obviously wasn't real. And it was just crazy being at Salt Line when they all just kind of just started showing up, because they were obviously, Mike Clay walked in and he was looking hurt already. And what I heard was that they stayed until 5:00 in the morning from one of my coworkers that lives right above Salt Line.
Oh my Lord.
But yeah, going back to Parra real quick, heard a story, don't know the source, but what I'm hearing is from clubhouse sources that as soon as he got there, he told Juan Soto and Victor Robles to come to his locker, literally sat them down and told them, you are going to play like me.
Wow.
And you to have fun. You are going to play fundamental baseball. You're going to grind at bats. You're going to play awesome outfield. You are going to play like me. I love the mix of veterans and young guys on this team with like Rendon and Trey kind of being in the middle. The balance is so great right now. They gel. It's obvious, but the mix of the veterans that Rizzo was able to pick up and put together has been so key for those young guys, I feel like.
Yeah, the veteran presence that I was talking to some people at work today about that. Like, just they're the oldest team in baseball. But that mix, but it's not like that they're near the mean, or the median. Like they've got Robles and Soto at 20 years old, but then they've also got Zim.
Rodney at 42.
Zim and Rodney, and it's such a huge range. It's pretty impressive. So I think that we're coming to the end here. We obviously don't know who the Nationals are going to face in the World Series this year.
I need to put in my 2 cents about the World Series. I feel actually pretty good about their chances. I'm in. Like,
but against who?
That
is my question. So
I don't care. I don't care.
You just. I mean,
I don't care.
I feel good as well. I feel the Nats will battle anyone well.
If they play like they've been playing, it really doesn't matter.
I totally agree.
Yeah. I can't say they're going to win. I feel good that, like Craig said, they're going to battle. They're going to play really hard like they've done all year, and they just continue that. And if they come up short, it's okay. But like, the similarities to the Caps are there. Another similarity is, like I mentioned earlier, the state championship team for Lake Braddock. Like, they kind of went on a little. The one thing I didn't tell you guys about that team is they beat every team that they played this year. They lost 3 times, twice to our rival West Springfield, once to Centerville, and they were able to knock them out on their way to the state championship in the playoffs. They knocked both the teams out. Oh, no, sorry. They beat the West Springfield the region final and then knocked Centerville out in the first round of states. But it's kind of the same thing. We went through a little revenge tour there. We beat the Dodgers, who had beaten us before in the NLDS, and then we beat the Cardinals, who were the first opponent we ever had. And the other thing I wanted to throw in is, like, if they had done this in 2012, it would not have felt as good because the heartbreak hadn't been there. And I know we're going to touch on it later, but like, that's where the kind of fandom thing comes in for me. Like, you need to be there for the lows so that the highs are that much better. And I just feel good about this team and how they've been battling, because I honestly don't think the layoffs should affect them. It might hurt them hitting wise, but if the pitching is rested and is the most important part of our team and finding success in this next series.
And the whole team gets pumped up for the pitchers.
I mean, Anibal set the tone for everybody that series.
Well,
and they did not look back.
And I feel like, in turn, for just the rest of the playoffs, right? Like, there is this level of the starting pitchers, like, to have Anibal and Max going back to back, Anibal just going, I'm going to go up there and shove, and then Max going up there and being like, fuck you, I want to be better. Like,
and then Strauss.
Like, that set
and then
all of
Strasburg
it.
being like, I'm cool with
it. Exactly.
I'm just going to.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's. I love what you mentioned, Johan. The getting over the hump. It kind of feels like one of those old school video games where you see the boss, and then the boss, you kind of beat the boss a little bit, and then you come back to him later, later in the level. I love that, and it reminds me also of when I was a freshman in college. JMU won a national championship in football. They lost the homecoming game to William and Mary on a last-second field goal. Like, time expired, all that. And in the semifinals of the playoffs, they had to go to William and Mary for the semifinals, and they beat them. I want to say it was 38-24. So just that revenge factor just makes it that much more sweet. And, once JMU got past, they cruised in the title game because you had defeated the demon. You had beaten it down, and you had gone forward. And you saw it with the Caps versus the Penguins in 2018, and they just cruised from there. And you saw the Nationals get over just the winning a series hump and cruised against. They swept the Cardinals in the NLCS.
Yeah.
So I feel like, can I throw out the last topic, because I feel like you guys will agree that this should be the last topic.
Hit me.
Ryan Zimmerman is going to get to play in the World Series.
Well, so hold on real quick. Johan, you don't have a prediction on who you want the Nats to face. Craig, do you have anybody?
I think it's going to be the Astros.
You think it's going to be? Is that who you want it to be?
I want it to be the Yankees, but I think it's going to be the Astros. They're just too damn good.
Same thing. Okay, I just wanted to hit the.
They're too good.
I want it to be the Yankees because I want the matchup against their pitching and our pitchers against their hitters. That's just my whole thing. But I don't want to have our hitters face
Verlander and Cole versus Scherzer and Strasburg. I mean, come on.
Terrifies me.
Get the fuck out of here.
So I just wanted to put that on the record. So Yo, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw it to you because we all have a lot to say about that, and I feel like I think Max was the one that he was like, dude, Ryan Zimmerman is going to play in a World Series. He's been in the league for 15 years or 14 years. It's
so hard to quantify what Ryan Zimmerman has meant to fans, to the organization, to the city, to the fucking state of Virginia, with all he's done down in Tidewater, all he did at UVA and continues to do at UVA, and then what he's done for the greater Washington area. I'll speak a little bit personally. When Ryan Zimmerman was drafted, that first year the Nationals were in existence and baseball had finally come back after, 30 whatever years not being there. It reignited my fandom in baseball after being a Mariners fan and not living in Seattle for years, and it kind of just brought me back in 2005 when the team came. But that first team was an Expos team. It was, Levon was wonderful, and Chad Cordero was exciting, but he ended up being, a couple years and gone. And they drafted this kid out of UVA who this guy is going to be, your cornerstone, your third baseman. And how many times do you draft a player, or does any team in any sport where you say, when you sign the player, when you whatever, oh, this guy, this draft pick is going to be it. Like, it does not happen that way very often. Like,
and it actually pans out.
You get your few years until free agency, or they don't pan out. You get your going back to some old school references, your Chris Marreros, draft picks that just don't work out. But how often do you draft someone and you have your talking points? Oh, this guy is going to be your franchise third baseman for years and years and years. And it actually happens in any sport. It just rarely happens. And to see the parallels, obviously, with Alexander Ovechkin of the Capitals, who's been otherworldly for his entire exact length career as Ryan Zimmerman. But to have Ryan Zimmerman's career kind of mirror that of the Nationals, where Ryan Zimmerman's height happened to coincide with some of the worst Nationals teams ever. And some of Ryan Zimmerman's down years coincided with some of the team's best years. And to finally get to a point where 6-7 weeks ago, I wouldn't say I was banging the drum, but I was saying, I think this is it for Ryan Zimmerman. I think he's done. I think the injuries have finally become too much, and it's just not worth it to him. He's got so much else going for him in the rest of his life that he doesn't need it to survive. And then September happened, and then these playoffs have happened, and he has been right there in the thick of it. He has gotten big hits. He has made incredible defensive plays at his second position, first base. And it's just so wonderful that it took 15 years for this guy, who is absolutely a DC retired number. No one's going to ever wear 11 again. Ring of Honor, all of that stuff. Unfortunately, I think he's going to fall short of a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really matter as much as the impact he's had in DC. And to have, after this long and so many ups and downs for the organization and for him, that he gets to play for the trophy, like for it. He gets to play in a World Series. He got to play in an NLCS for the first time, for fuck's sake. that
and was
it's
locked in.
just so wonderful to see, and that just makes it all the more special for anyone who's watched the team for as long as we all have. So, like, it's just, I couldn't be happier. It makes me emotional. There's a reason why my first jersey with a name on the back ever was Ryan Zimmerman. So,
So same for me, right? He was my first jersey. Craig, you and I have a pick from 2007, maybe, at a Peanuts game, and like I'm wearing my Zimmerman jersey, and it's like I think it says a lot. Like Sean Doolittle was interviewed at the end of the game, at Game 4, after the Nats had clinched the World Series, and he got a little choked up in the interview, and I'm saying it as much as I possibly can.
yeah.
Doolittle got choked up a little bit because they played together at UVA, and he said if you would have told me that you would have that Ryan and I would have played in DC for a World Series, like I would have told you were nuts. Like there's no way that's going to happen. And he talked about his time and Ryan's impact on the team. You know, Doolittle kind of understanding the legacy, but Ryan Zimmerman will forever be, I think, one of the most important players in DC baseball history. And it's not about the numbers that he's put up, and it's not about any of the hard stats. It's he came here, he made the effort to be the best player that he could be, and it was a pretty damn good player. He came close to a Hall of Fame type career, I think, falling short of, but I think came close to it. And he will forever be associated with this team. And what do you think about, him playing in his first World Series and first NLCS, and having that opportunity after all of the rough years that he was a part of, both for the team, like you said, Craig, for the team and for himself personally? It's so vindicating to watch him in this situation. And then the way that it kind of manifested itself was him and Howie at the podium after the win being asked all these questions by national writers and local writers and writers from St. Louis and media from St. Louis and DC. It was so cool to be able to see him be able to take on the mantra of the face of the franchise that we have wanted to see for him for so long. And not that, for me, it's not even that I wanted to see it for the fan base. I wanted to see it for him because he deserves it as a player. The way, he has made that effort for so long, and just every bit of adversity that he's experienced, which is not insignificant in personal life, professional life, health-wise, everything else, that he just he's here for the team. And the fact that when he signed his last deal, it included, hey, I'm going to stay with this team after I retire for a while, shows how he feels about this team and the city. And he feels a similar way that we feel towards him. And so being able to see him play in the World Series, just like you said, makes me, when I think about it, it makes me feel some stuff. That's for sure. Yeah.
It makes me, it choked me up when Max kind of said it last night too. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Like, he is my favorite player of all time.
Nice.
He's always been, and I've always defended him with everything I have because of that. Like you said, he was his best at the Nationals' worst. He was the only reason to watch in 08 and 09. Glove and bat. One of the best third basemen I've ever seen in my life play before his arm.
No question.
Before his shoulder went and before his oblique went. Like, it was, I miss seeing him on Web Gems on Baseball Tonight every night in 09. Literally the only bat I really cared about and had to watch every single time. I watched 4 at-bats a game. And I think it's understated that he is the face of the franchise. I always remember, I think it was in 2012 or after the season when they did that face of the franchise hashtag contest on Twitter, where every team's fan base decided who their face of the franchise was based on the number of tweets that they got. And there's just a huge argument within the Nats fan base about, is it Harper or is it Zimmerman? And basically everybody that watched in the aughts is Zimmerman because of the fact that he played through their worst years. And then Bryce was just the most recent new thing and the once in a generation player, the guy that everybody talks about. And it really set apart kind of like you guys would say Zim over Harper back then, I would assume, and then you kind of like know who was watching before, and it was really a hard line right at 2012 that kind of like divided the fan base for a little bit. But to me, it's always been him. He's a model person, player, the best representative you could ever dream of for a team, and something that, say, like the Redskins are missing. Like they don't have anybody that's like Zim. Home, like grew up in Virginia, went to his college in Virginia, and is playing right next to Virginia. Couldn't be a better representative of this area, like this tri-state area, than him. And the fact that he's finally getting to play at the highest level and compete for a championship is just can't be put into words. It's how unbelievable that is, and how happy I'm sure everybody is for him more than anybody else, because like you said, he deserves it more than anybody else because of the way he's conducted himself. He's the reason why he's my favorite player, is that I love players that lead by example and don't have to be outspoken to be seen. And that's how he's always been. He's been like Rendon before Rendon was here, where he doesn't want the spotlight, and really didn't get it because he was quieter than Rendon.
Right.
Rendon gets it now because he's just freaking amazing, and he's just like, get away from me. But Ryan's always been solid whenever he's healthy, and that's always been the case. It just stinks that he probably was on a Hall of Fame path until he started.
He absolutely was.
And that's the shame, but like it's
no one in DC is going to love him any less because he's not a Hall of Fame.
Totally.
Like,
yeah, no, like you said, definitely Ring of Fame retired number. Nobody else can ever.
No
wear
way.
11.
no one's wearing 11.
Yeah.
Ever. Like I would be really, really mad if they let that happen, because he deserves that type of honor because of the way he has carried himself and played throughout his entire career. Selfless baseball is my game. Nothing is ever directed towards himself. Everything he does is for everybody else. And he's always been that leader without talking. And that's the type of player I love, always. And I'm so happy that he gets to finally do this and just lead the team in. I love that he was locked in for that series, even though he didn't get the results, because, again, he was leading by example. I mean, he got us through Game 4 so that we could breathe in the NLDS, and then I mean, he didn't even start the wildcard game. It's crazy to think about. He had to earn his starting spot, got a couple hits, and was like, all right, well, we can't take this guy out of the lineup ever.
Right.
And that's what he does. Like, whenever, I mean, of all the September tears he's taken, whenever he gets healthy after being hurt in July and August, every year,
Right.
comes back in September and just tears it up. And it's like, you just have to wait till he's healthy. He's going to do this. And it always cracks me up when people are like, man, where's this coming from? Like, you don't know Zim.
Right.
It's obvious to me that you don't know Ryan Zimmerman if you A, say he sucks because he can't throw, and B, you don't understand that when he is healthy, he is our best hitter.
Yeah. And I don't think there's a better way to end this show. You're right, Yo, than talking about this, right? Like it's so cool. It's so cool to be in this spot where we could talk about Ryan Zimmerman playing in a World Series after all of those years of team disappointments and 100 lost seasons and personal disappointments for him. Yeah, good way to end this show.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot since Max said that last night, and it's choking me up right now.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
So we're going to talk to you guys again before the Nationals play in the World Series against TBD opponent, because the Nationals will have to wait a while because they swept the Cardinals in the NLCS.
So once
Houston's up 2-0 right now in the 5th.
They're playing?
Wait, they're not playing.
Is this a
Must
replay?
be. Yeah, they're postponed tonight.
They postponed the game.
Oh, I guess they're playing the one from yesterday. Sorry.
I was like, holy shit, what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, it says tied.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. That's my bad.
Yeah, they postponed because of the weather, and then they're playing Thursday, Friday. So the Nationals are waiting to see who their opponent is in the World Series.
Because they just swept in the NLCS.
That's right. And once we know who the Nationals' opponent is in the World Series because they swept the NLCS, we will do another episode of this podcast with the three of us, and we'll talk about the matchups and try and figure out where the Nationals are going forward, and what their odds are in winning the fucking World Series.
Christ.
Oh my god.
This was a fun podcast, boys.
So we are a minute and 15 seconds short of 2 hours of streaming. So I feel like we just have to find a way to hit the 2-hour mark. So because
Do you guys think anyone's actually listening?
there are,
At this point, I don't think
I
so.
gotta tell you, I'm looking at the numbers. There are a bunch of people listening.
Oh,
There really are. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's
So,
hilarious.
People, it speaks to this fan base, and we've kind of we plan to talk about fandom and everything else, and we'll talk about that in the World Series preview episode of this podcast.
Because the Nats are
Yeah,
playing.
they're playing in that game. But I think it's important to note that there's a huge passionate fan base out there that are just looking to enjoy this as much as anybody else would in a fan base. That there aren't a lot of fan bases left who have not experienced a World Series yet.
There's one.
Which is what I was just going to say.
There's a Sporkle. There is a Sporkle quiz, and the only question is who hasn't made it. It's so bad. It
I'm
hurts.
sorry, Craig.
Oh, it's so funny. But hey, the good news is the first World Series game, the StubHub tickets are now down to $749 for
That's a
standing
big
room
drop.
only.
God.
It's like
Down from $840.
Oh my god. I'm really trying to go to Game 4, and I don't know. Oh man, I'm looking.
Game 4 you want to go to? Starting pricing at $800.
Oh, SeatGeek's 1,000.
Oh God. Oh Lord. All right, second mortgage, guys. Second mortgage.
I would love to, but I am definitely planning on heading down to the ballpark, hitting up Walters, and then hanging there.
I mean, if I don't get a ticket, that's what I will be doing.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can before we do the next broadcast here, we can figure out if we're gonna do something fun for one of these games. So we'll see. We'll see what we figure out.
Well, we got to figure. Our next broadcast is probably going to be what, Monday night?
Yeah, but either
the series starts
either
Tuesday.
Sunday or Monday, right? Yeah.
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 So once.
Yeah, the series starts Tuesday in AL City.
Yeah, in the AL City where the Nationals are going to play in the World Series. Yeah.
Yes.
That's still happening. Well,
we're sure it's called the World Series,
the
right?
World Series.
Yes. There will be at that point there will be 2 teams left in baseball, and the Nationals will be one of them.
Are we confident that we're not dead right now?
Oh yeah. So that was one of the big things that we're going to talk about. That all of us were existing in a kind of an odd purgatory, where the Nationals were going to make the World Series, but actually the World Series never actually gets played, and we just live in like a Groundhog Day circular process.
You know what? If I live every day like I am right now, like with the Nationals being this successul,
that's a good purgatory. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I'm not as hungover as I was this morning.
The NLCS is literally like how would you want a series to go? Let's put it together. Yeah, I want my starters to go no hits all 4 games and strike out like 10 every single time, and they're just gonna get 10 hits a game. Sound good?
And
they're not gonna lose.
And the Nats did exactly that.
Oh, and they're not going to trail again.
They're not gonna trail at all.
Jesus fucking
against the team that kicked them out of their postseason in horrifying fashion. By the way.
God, that was one of the worst nights of my life.
And you know what?
And yesterday was one of the best.
And we have October 15th and 16th to celebrate the other side of that. October 15th and 16th, 2019. Pretty awesome. Well, I think this was the perfect way to end this 2-hour plus long podcast, gentlemen. Thanks for listening to this episode of Nats Talk on the Go. We will talk to you once we know who the Nationals World Series opponent is in the next few days. Hope you all enjoyed this show, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Can I add one more? I gotta do Davey's quote.
Yeah. Oh.
Often bumpy roads lead to beautiful places.
Such a good quote.
He said that. I cried like a child.
Oh my god.
Like a child.
It got me right in the heart, man. Often bumpy roads lead to beautiful places, and this is a beautiful place. I mean,
I want to cross stitch that "Live, Laugh, Love" style.
I really did. That was like insta sob for me when he said it. Like I was like, oh yeah, way to go, Davey. And he was.
What a fucking cheese
and he
ball.
was choking up while he said it too. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Johan, that's
perfect. What a ride for him.
Yeah.
Like he almost fucking died.
He almost died, and then he does this.
We rode a bumpy road with the team, and we are quite in a beautiful place today, guys. That's for sure.
Finn.
Love you all. We'll talk to y'all in a couple days.